Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're cutting through the noise and confusion of a very specific, and I think we can all agree, a very universal experience. The manic Monday morning. That feeling, when the alarm goes off and your house just feels less like a home and more like a really chaotic, high-stress race against the clock.
It's a feeling everyone knows, and it's something we often just accept, the cost of modern life. But today we're going to give that mayhem, that sort of domestic pressure cooker, the serious analytical treatment it really deserves. We're going to show you exactly how a poet can take just a tiny slice of everyday life and turn it into really powerful social commentary.
Absolutely. Our deep dive is focused on analyzing a short but incredibly powerful piece of source material. It's a poem titled The Monday Breeze. And this deep dive is really tailored for you, the learner, whether you're trying to get a handle on literary devices like, say, enjambment, or you're just fascinated by how language can deliver such sharp insights.
Our mission today is to thoroughly unpack this text piece by piece. We'll be using clear, simple language, so it's perfect for understanding these core literary concepts, even if this is all brand new to you. We're going to break down every technical term, look at every choice the poet made, and show you how it all connects to these bigger themes of stress and relationship dynamics.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The title itself it's a fascinating contradiction, which I think hints at what the poet is trying to do. But before we get into analyzing that, let's hear the poem in full. It'll really help set the scene, and you can experience that frantic pace with us.
All right, here is the Monday breeze. Blurring horns, screaming voice, running legs, children settle in van, mommy runs out and returns, daddy yells, women, they always forget their purse. I am late, daddy yells, if you had helped me, we would have been gone.
So, there it is. The first thing that just hits you, even before you process the words, is that name, the Monday Breeze. I mean, where is the breeze?
Exactly. I feel anything but relaxed after hearing that. And what's so fascinating here is the immediate, unavoidable use of irony. It's really the foundation of this entire poem.
So irony being the contrast between what's said and what's really happening.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But let's look at the effect of that irony. The title suggests calmness, something effortless and gentle, a breeze. It sets up an expectation of ease.
Yeah, breeze is it's smooth, it's quiet. It implies the week is starting without any trouble.
But the poem gives us the exact opposite. Nothing but chaos, friction, and this absolute frenzy. The title establishes the ideal, that calm we all want, and then it just highlights this massive, jarring gap between that ideal and the harsh reality of the morning rush.
So the irony is the first piece of social commentary. It's saying, this morning is anything but breezy. It's a fight.
It is. If the poet had called it, say, Monday morning mayhem, you'd feel the stress, sure, but you'd lose that critical layer of comparison, that yearning for something simpler that the title The Monday Breeze gives us.
Right. The poet is framing the whole scene with a bit of cynicism, suggesting that a calm Monday is, well, basically a fantasy in modern life.
An absurd fantasy, almost.
Okay, so let's move from the title to the structure, because that's what physically creates this non-breezy feeling. It's so short, so punchy, it moves incredibly quickly. It feels like a series of rapid snapshots, from a shaky phone camera, not a smooth story.
That structural choice is absolutely deliberate. It's the poet's first major tool for capturing the chaos. The poem is made up of 5 stanzas, and if you look closely, you'll see that each stanza has exactly 2 lines.
Okay.
And in poetry, we have a name for that. A poem built from 2-line stanzas is composed of couplets.
So on the outside, it looks really orderly, 5 neat, perfect couplets, but the language inside those couplets is just completely uncontrolled.
That contrast is essential. The poet uses this very formal, contained box for an utterly messy, chaotic reality. And the sentences themselves are fragmented, blurring horns, running legs. These aren't full descriptions, they're tiny, rushed bursts of observation.
And that structure forces the pace on you. If you try to read it slowly, it just feels wrong. You have to speed up.
You do. The fragmented lines create that frantic tone. It forces your eye and your inner voice to move quickly from one image to the next, just like your mind races when you're late. The very act of reading mirrors the urgent, breathless pace of the morning itself. The structure makes you, the reader, feel the hurry right alongside the characters.
And that urgency pulls us right into the scene, which is a perfect transition, I think, into our next section, where the poet uses really vivid imagery to put us right in the middle of this mess.
So now we get to talk about the power of imagery. Imagery is just the use of descriptive language that appeals to our senses. Sight, sound, touch, movement. It's how a poet makes an abstract feeling like stress feel, well, tangible and real.
And the poem doesn't start with what we see, which I found interesting. It starts with what we hear. The sound is the first punch.
That's right. The opening lines immediately assault your hearing. Blurring horns and screaming voice. These are not pleasant sounds. They're harsh. They're grating. And this collection of unpleasant sounds leads us to a really important technical term, cacophony.
Cacophony. It's a great word for a terrible sound. So for anyone hearing that for the first time, what does it mean in a literary sense?
Cacophony refers to a harsh, discordant, jarring mixture of sounds. Think of it as the poet deliberately choosing words that sound unpleasant together. Lots of hard consonants, lots of noise. It's the opposite of euphony, which is all about pleasing, harmonious sounds.
So in this poem, it's the horns and the yelling. It just creates this immediate, stressful, loud atmosphere. The environment itself feels hostile.
Exactly. And notice the word blurring. The blurring horns suggest they're happening so fast and so constantly they all just dissolve into one long, painful noise, like rush hour traffic. The cacophony here is the soundtrack to urban stress.
So the sound sets this mood of high friction. Then the next lines shift our focus to the frantic action. Running legs. So simple, but it tells you everything.
This moves us to a different kind of imagery, what we call kinetic imagery. Kinetic imagery is all about movement, energy, action. When you read running legs, you don't just see a picture, you feel the rush, the effort.
It's the visual version of the internal panic.
Absolutely. The kinetic energy is high, it's uncontrolled, it conveys this sense of urgency and chaos. Someone is running, scrambling, late. It implies they are not in control of their morning, the clock is in control of them.
And the poet uses that movement to transition the family from their private space to the public one with a line, "Children settle in van." It's sort of the first moment of stillness, but it's a forced stillness in a small, contained box.
And that momentary settling is a really pivotal point. The van is the checkpoint. The family has to contain all that internal chaos, the running, the screaming, and get ready for the public world, the school run, the commute.
It's like the van is the starting line for the rest of their high-pressure day. They've contained the children, but the adult stress, that hasn't stopped.
Precisely. The juxtaposition is powerful. The children settle, they find some calm, but the parents continue to operate in this state of high alert, which we see in the very next line. Mummy runs out and returns. The kinetic energy stays with the adults. So the imagery and the pace have set the stage, but it's the dialogue, or what feels like dialogue, that tells the story of this relationship under strain. We can pull out 3 major intertwined themes from these 10 lines: chaos and stress, gender roles and expectations, and finally, relationship dynamics and marital tension.
The chaos and stress is the engine for everything else, right?
Yeah.
We see it so clearly in Mummy Runs Out and Returns, that single action running out, forgetting something, running back in. It's the perfect little story of disorganized panic.
It speaks volumes about the multitasking she's trying to do, and then you get the immediate aggressive response. Daddy yells. The stress isn't managed, it's just outsourced onto her.
The yelling reinforces the cacophony we talked about earlier. And that emotional response leads us straight into the second, and I'd argue the most pointed theme here, the commentary on gender roles.
This is where the social critique gets very, very sharp. It's concentrated in those lines, women, they always forget their purse.
This is where the poet uses the device of stereotyping. Not necessarily to endorse the stereotype, but to expose how it's used as a weapon when people are under pressure. I have to admit, that line, women, they always forget their purse, it feels a bit blunt, almost too easy. Is the poet risking being too obvious by using such a common generalization?
That is a very fair question. And you're right, it is a cliche, but I think the poet's intention is to show us the mindset of the person yelling, of daddy. By putting that generalization right in the middle of this scene of blame, the poem is using the cliche almost like a piece of evidence. It's reflecting this ingrained prejudice that when something goes wrong with the family logistics, the default is to fall back on a sweeping gender judgment.
So the poet is using the stereotype to critique that very tendency. The tendency to blame women for logistical failures, especially when they're the ones managing what we now call the mental load.
Exactly. The purse isn't just a purse. It's a symbol for all of that domestic organization. The keys, the money, the schedules, the emergency contacts, all of it.
It's a second shift in action. Women are often expected to manage all of that, so when one piece of it fails, like forgetting the purse, it's not seen as a shared failure. It's her failure.
Right. The father doesn't see it as a flaw in their shared system. He uses the stereotype as proof of a flaw in her. Which leads us to the third theme, the relationship dynamics and marital tension. The daddy yells dynamic is already set. It suggests a more traditional patriarchal tone, where the father is the voice of criticism, the one who asserts control through volume.
But the final lines are the sharpest articulation of that tension. It just wraps the whole conflict up in one neat, angry package.
It condenses it perfectly. You have the accusation, and then you have the deflection of responsibility. "I am late," Daddy yells. "If you had helped me, we would have been gone."
That line is so powerful because it frames the whole conflict as one of blame, specifically blaming the lack of help instead of acknowledging shared responsibility.
And let's zoom in on that word help. He says, "If you had helped me." This is key. He frames her actions as a failure to assist him in his goal, not a failure in their shared goal. It implies the core organizational work belongs to her, and his role is just to be, well, to be helped.
But couldn't we also read that last line as a kind of desperate, stress-fueled cry for partnership? Maybe it's a poorly phrased, immature plea for shared responsibility.
That's a really insightful counter-reading, and the poem definitely allows for it. Under that much stress, people don't always communicate perfectly. So yes, maybe he wants shared responsibility. But the way he expresses it through yelling and blame just reinforces the existing power imbalance. It shows how stress can push people into their most traditional, defensive, or even aggressive roles.
It's amazing how much is packed in there. And this brings us to the most essential literary device the poet uses to make us feel all this chaos and tension: enjambment.
We really have to spend some time on enjambment because it's the engine of the poem's pace. It's the technical choice that makes the whole thing feel like a breathless rush.
We often talk about how structure affects feeling, and enjambment is probably the clearest example of that.
It is. So to define it clearly for you, enjambment is when a sentence or phrase continues from one line of a poem into the next without any punctuation to stop it. No comma, no period, nothing.
So to give you a mental image, think of it like this. If each line of the poem is a train track, punctuation is the station where the train stops. With enjambment, the train just runs right off the end of one track and lands on the next one at full speed. You're forced to keep going.
That forced, breathless rush is its primary function here. It creates this immediate physical connection between the pace of your reading and the panic of the characters.
Let's break down the functions of enjambment in this poem. The first one is just creating that urgency and flow.
Right. Because the characters are running and yelling, the device makes sure our reading experience matches their chaos. The lack of breaks forces this hurried, continuous flow. The poem sounds rushed because the poet took out all the stops.
It feels more like panicked, unfiltered thought than a formal poem.
Exactly. And that flow is crucial for its second function, emphasizing specific ideas. By cutting a thought off and forcing the next important word to the beginning of the next line, the poet draws maximum attention to that word.
Okay, let's look at the examples from the poem. The very first lines. Blurring horns, screaming voice.
The enjambment links those chaotic sounds immediately. If there was a period after horns, it would feel like a separate thought. But here, the sounds just pile up one on top of the other, making the cacophony worse.
Then the next one, which really highlights the parental stress, Mummy runs out and returns. Daddy yells.
The lack of a pause there is absolutely critical. It shows the immediacy of his reaction. Her frantic action is met with an instant, high-volume complaint. The structure mirrors the speed of their tension.
And the third example, the one with the social commentary. Women, they always forget their purse.
This is a brilliant use of the device. The enjambment isolates the word women on its own line. It puts a spotlight on it. So the generalization that follows feels even more forceful because the group being stereotyped has been structurally highlighted just before the accusation hits.
Right, the focus is literally on the gendered nature of the complaint.
And that all ties into the third and deepest function of enjambment here, conveying marital confusion and blurring boundaries.
What do you mean by blurring boundaries?
Well, when people are stressed or arguing, thoughts and responsibilities get all jumbled up. Who's really at fault? The running-on sentences literally blur the lines between their individual actions and thoughts. The structure reflects the confusion.
So the poem doesn't give us a clear, punctuated answer about who's to blame, and the enjambment reinforces that ambiguity.
Precisely. The device emphasizes the emotional overlap, the lack of a clear break for rational thought. The whole scene is just one big, breathless, confused rush.
Okay, so we understand the relentless pace. Now let's look at what the objects in the poem are really standing for. What are the hidden meanings?
This brings us to symbolism. That's when an object or an idea stands for something deeper than its literal meaning. And in this poem, the purse and the van are both carrying a lot of symbolic weight.
Let's start with the catalyst for the conflict, the forgotten purse.
The purse is so much more than just an accessory. It symbolizes the mother's vast, often invisible responsibilities. It's the logistical hub of the family. It's the tangible manifestation of that mental load we talked about.
And forgetting it is seen by the father as a catastrophic failure of her entire duty to be organized.
It is, because it stops the machine. In a world where you need to get to work, get kids to school, a forgotten purse can derail the entire day. So it immediately triggers the blame cycle because it halts productivity.
Okay, what about the second object, the van? This is where the children finally settle.
The van is loaded with symbolism. It represents the family's transition point. It's the boundary between their private, domestic chaos and the demanding public world of work and school schedules.
It's the gateway they have to cross to connect with the outside world.
Exactly. And you can also see the van as a symbol of our dependence on technology and the rigid structures of a time-driven economy. The struggle to get into the van is the struggle to meet the demands of modern life. In a way, the van isn't freedom, it's the prison of the commute.
So, with all this aggression, chaos, and tension, let's try to nail down the overall tone of the poem. What's the feeling the poet wants us to have?
The tone is frantic, it's urgent, and it's deeply critical. The cacophony makes it frantic, the enjambment makes it urgent, and the dialogue, the yelling and the blame, gives it that sharp, critical edge.
It's an indictment of the modern rush.
It is. The criticism isn't just aimed at the parents, but at the whole system that puts them under this much unsustainable pressure.
So if we connect all of this to the bigger picture, what is the poem ultimately saying to you, the reader, about the society we live in?
This is really the heart of the social commentary. The poem uses this mundane Monday morning as a case study for some really big societal pressures.
Let's start with the clearest one, societal pressure and gender roles.
The dynamic of daddy yells versus mummy runs speaks directly to those traditional roles. The father is the authority, the timekeeper. The mother is associated with the frantic domestic effort. The poem critiques a system where one parent is still expected to manage the majority of the household logistics.
And the moment the system fails, the father falls back on the easiest tool available, a stereotype and blame.
Exactly. This leads to the second shift that sociologists talk about. The poem critiques the unfairness of a system where the management of the purse is assigned to one person, but the right to criticize its failure is retained by the other.
And this is all amplified by the poem's commentary on work-life balance.
Absolutely. The urgency here is suffocating. It shows the challenges of achieving that balance when the work starts long before you even leave the house. The morning routine isn't a harmonious start, it's a source of conflict because external deadlines are constantly pressing in.
And that brings us to the final point, the sheer strain of modern life itself.
It's a reflection on how the demands for productivity and timeliness can erode fundamental human relationships. The problem isn't really the purse. It's the fact that they're already so stressed, so tightly scheduled, that one tiny failure causes the whole system to collapse into raw conflict.
The title, The Monday Breeze, suddenly feels less like a joke and more like a tragedy. They want the breeze, but the system they live in makes it impossible.
That's it, exactly. And we can sum this up for you in a few key interpretations you can take away. You can see this poem as 1, a critique of patriarchal structures, 2, a reflection on the strain of modern economic life on families, and 3, an exploration of the tension between our private duties and our public responsibilities.
It's just remarkable how much depth is achieved with so few words. Every choice matters.
That is the definition of powerful poetry.
All right, we have unpacked the title, the structure, the imagery, the symbolism, and the critical role of enjambment. So let's quickly solidify some of these key takeaways for you, the learner, with a brief quiz. Think of it as a lightning round to lock in these ideas.
Sounds good. This is a quick test based directly on the text and the terms we've defined. Ready?
Let's do it. Question 1. How many stanzas are in the poem, and what is the two-line stanza form called?
The answer is 5 stanzas, and those 2-line stanzas are called couplets.
Perfect. Question 2. What technical term refers to the harsh mixture of sounds like blurring horns and screaming voice?
That harsh, jarring sound is called cacophony.
Excellent. Question 3. The phrase running legs is an example of what specific type of imagery?
That imagery of movement and action is called kinetic imagery.
Okay, 2 more. Question 4. The forgotten purse is a symbol for what larger concept related to domestic responsibility?
It symbolizes the mental load or the burden of household organization.
And finally, question 5, the big one. Which poetic device is used to create the frantic, breathless pace and link actions to immediate reactions without a pause.
That would be enjambment.
Great job. And I think that review shows how all these devices, from imagery to enjambment, work together to build this realistic, high-pressure snapshot of a family under stress. We've gone from a simple 10-line poem to a really deep understanding of irony, complex literary devices, and sharp social critique.
The poem really does capture that frenetic atmosphere of a Monday morning, and it invites you, the reader, to reflect on how every word choice, even a missing comma, can shape the feeling and meaning of a text.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to consider, building on our discussion of enjambment and blame. If the father's final line, "If you had helped me, we would have been gone," was followed by a hard stop, a period, before the mother could respond, how would that change the feeling of immediate conflict? Would the poem feel as urgent and volatile? Or would that small structural separation give us, the reader, a chance to breathe and maybe see their conflict as less of the single tangled mess?
Something to mull over as you start your own week. How much can a simple pause change everything in poetry and in life?
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the Monday Breeze. We hope this analysis gave you the tool to approach any text with confidence and curiosity. We'll see you next time.